Right, and so 75, wonderful year at Durban United, really enjoyed it. Well run, organised, young players, and I've mentioned a few, but Lawrence Gillen in particular, Johnny McGregor, just all of them, fine young players, and all young, we were all young. So during that year, I had quite a responsible position on the railways where I planned the public transport, the trains, you know, the Old Line, the Malverns, the North Deans, South Coast, North Coast, Umlazi, Kwamashu lines, Crossmore. And so I couldn't travel with any side, with professional soccer. And so Arthur Lightning, who used to bring Ian Harvey down, and Arthur used to sit and watch, and of course everyone knows Arthur Lightning, perhaps the best goalkeeper. Some say Trevor Gething, I say Arthur Lightning, and when Arthur approached me and he said, listen, why don't you come to Stella? You love your amateur ball, you have a responsible job, come to Stella, you'll be happy. And so at the end of that year, I told Win Kitto and our coach that I was going back. Now don't forget that Highlands Park had made an offer for myself and Ian Harvey, but I wasn't interested in giving up my amateur, and because of my job I couldn't move. Ian Harvey turned it down, and so I went off to Stella. And that was to be the start of a wonderful 4 years, 75, 76, 77, 78. Joined Stella.
What do you call it a golden era?
A golden era, and Stella was always a powerhouse, and it was a privilege for me to be there. And I played next to Brian Scully, who had captained the SA Currie Cup side, and just Lionel Matheson, Tommy Cargill, Ronnie Ryle, Louis Costa. There were just so many good players there. Bobby Neetling. And so I joined them, and Arthur Lightning was the manager, and Arthur Lewis was the coach. Arthur was the disciplinarian, Arthur Lewis the coach. He was a fun guy, I loved it, and settled in quickly there and really enjoyed those golden years. We won the league in 75, the Premier League. I think I'm not sure whether we won it in 76. There's a possibility. And in those 2 years, in 77, we never won it. And the side was aging. All those good players, you could see they were aging. But in those 76 and 77, we had two great games. In the Castle Cup, we drew Lusitano. We had won the Natal division, and we went into the professional league draw. And Lusitano won the league that year. I'm not sure it was 76 or 77, but they had a top-class side.
This shirt is from that era. This is the 1977 Lusitano shirt that they used in the cup final.
So I think it would have been possibly 77. They had a wonderful side. And we drew them in the cup at Stella. And I think there were 8,000 people at Stella that day to watch that game. And what made it even more historic was, although we were banned from international football, they brought out a guy, Ted, I don't know if it was McDougall or something like it. He was an Irish international. They got him for 6 matches only, and it just so happened that the first match was against Stella. And everyone just packed the ground. I've never seen Stella as full. And we lost the game. I think it was 3-0. But a wonderful game of soccer. And Lusitano were a fine side. And then we drew Durban City. I think it was 77 or 78. And I remember Maritzburg were playing in Maritzburg, and a friend of mine was watching Maritzburg playing, and we played City on the ground on Kingsmead, And at half-time in the Maritzburg Stadium, it said, Stella 1, Durban City 0. We took the lead. And unfortunately, City scored 2 goals in the second half and beat us 2-1. But that was the strength of amateur football.
Yeah, and especially Stella.
And Stella, yeah, it was a powerhouse. So the side in 77 was aging, and at the AGM, Arthur Lightning made it known that he was going to make changes. And so the Arthurs were voted back in, and so all those guys that had given fantastic service, the Scullys and all of those guys, the Mathesons, they were released and opened doors for the first time for years at Stella. And so you had guys like Johnny Foster, Mike Lunsman, Henry Kruger, who played professional soccer with Celtic, Davy Kershaw, Willie Davis. And then Keith Searle joined. He shared the position with Dougie Shepherd that had been at Stella, at the right back position. Peter De Beer joined us. He was a wonderful centre half. No one knows much about Peter. He came from the Montclair area, but he was a superb centre half. One of those guys just quietly goes about doing his business. And then Bryony Smith was the left back next to me, nicknamed Frelimo. And
Why?
I don't know why, but that was his nickname. He was an exceptional left back, Bryony Smith.
Yeah.
And Clive Hadder, the goalkeeper. And that side, in my opinion, was one of the best amateur sides I ever played in. And we won everything on offer. We did lose one league game that year to Hillary Artillery. Always a tough nut to crack, But all the rest of the games we won in a tightly contested league. We won going away. We won everything that was on offer.
The treble.
And then obviously we had quite a few guys in the Natal team. And so that Stella side for me was the pinnacle. Now, in the interim, the Natal teams, Currie Cup teams, we played 76, 77. I played 75, won my first Currie Cup medal there, although I was more on the bench. It was my first year there. Then 77, Captain Natal. 76, Captain Natal. We got knocked out in the semi-finals here in Durban by Western Province. And then 77, Captain Natal, we played, that was Dave Geary's side, Dave Geary and Raymond Thurston. And we played in East London. We had a very, very good team. And that particular year, to raise funds, the Natal amateur team played the Natal professional team. Bruce Krobler was in goals for the professional side. They had a very, very good team. But we were there was depth in the amateur ranks. And it was either a 0-0 draw or 1-0 to the amateur side. I know Jimmy Gillies had a penalty in my memory, whether Jimmy scored against Krobler or whether he missed it or whether it was saved. I think he scored it, and I think we won 1-0. But it was a draw at Kingsmead or 1-0. And we went down to East London, and Dave Geary was a super motivator, and Ray Thurston, the coach. Again, we got knocked out through a penalty. And then made the South African side as vice captain for the first time, 1977. And then 78, my last year in Durban with Stella, we went the Currie Cup to Port Elizabeth. And my centre-half partner was the old goalkeeper that I'd played under 9 soccer with, Robbie Martin. Okay. He was now playing centre-half, and we went down 78 to Port Elizabeth. I think that tournament was won by Defence, Mark Tovey and them, and I think it was on goal difference that we never went through to the final. And was picked as captain of the South African side again. In the interim, in 78, I'd been promoted to Johannesburg to head the work with timetables there. And Bernie Wheeler, who had played for SA Schools as a schoolboy and played Sunday League with me, Bernie went down to Rhodes University to do a physical education degree. And he came back. We worked together on the railways. And then he came back that year after the first term, and he said, Louis, this is where your future lies. And I said to him, Bernie, look, I'm going to go to Joburg. I've got a family, 2 small kids. He said, you've got to come and do this. Is you. You're a born teacher. Now, I never really considered teaching. In actual fact, it was the furthest thing from my mind. And he said, come down and visit us. And so the South African side that year played in Botswana, and we beat Botswana 2-0. And from Botswana, which was at the end of the season, Stella had won the treble, I travelled down to Grahamstown and went and met Bernie and went through and met the university and met the Vice-Chancellor and everything. And they said that Rhodes University had gone through a tough time. The university guys were quite wild, the soccer section. They'd been banned from SA universities for a while. They were wild. They used to drink wine at half time. They were wild, these Rhodes students. It was always a festive university, you know. And the Vice-Chancellor said to me, look, we'll give you a scholarship. You come and play, and you study, and if you do well, we'll give you a wardenship, a house father of a res. At school, academically, they'd always said I had potential, but I was a sportsman.
What high school did you go to, Louis?
So it was St Henry's up to, I did spend St Henry's, grade 6 and 7, 8, 9 and 10 at St Charles and Maritzburg as a boarder, grade 11 and 12 back to St Henry's, and then I did a post-matric at DHS. But sport was my game at school. Studying, you know, so this was an opportunity to put right and to finally knuckle down. And so I very reluctantly left Stella, which I had loved. It was my passion. I was happy there. I was happy at work, but I left and I headed to Grahamstown in the beginning of 1979. And so we had money for 1 year, so we rented a little flat.
When you say did you go with your family?
My whole family, my
Okay.
2 small kids, and my daughter was going to grade 1. I think my son was going to...
What's your daughter and son's name?
Bree is my daughter, and son Warren. And I think he was going to go to standard 2, grade 4.
Yeah.
And he enrolled at Graham College. She enrolled at Assumption Convent, which was the oldest convent in South Africa. And in her second year turned 150 and then closed.
Right.
So I enrolled at the phys ed department and started phys ed 1. My other major was geography, and knuckled down to studying. Always first at the lecture theatres. I had my own maroon Beetle, and we had money for 1 year. But I was always first at the lectures, and I studied for the first time in my life.